Welcome to First Things First. I'm Jenna Wolfe. That is the Hall of Famer Cris Carter. Good morning, Nick Wright.
Good morning.
We got some preseason tonight. Lots of football to talk about today. Baker Mayfield says, bring on even more hype. We can handle it. Travis Kelce says the sky's the limit for an already sky-high Chiefs offense. And Aaron Rodgers making his debut with his new head coach tonight. That's where we start. The Packers in Baltimore to face the Ravens. Aaron Rodgers getting set to take this Matt LaFleur offense out for a spin as the starters plan to play a quarter or so, according to LaFleur. All the preseason talk about the coach-quarterback relationship on full display tonight. How will the offense fare against a Ravens team ranked second in scoring defense last season? We shall see. So let's start with you, Cris Carter. What should we expect from the Packers offense under LaFleur this year? How will it even look different than what we saw last year?
Well, the thing about NFL teams, they adopt a lot of formations and concepts from other teams. So Matt LaFleur, he's a smart guy. I was very, very fortunate last season that when he was coaching in Tennessee as offensive coordinator, I was able to do a game early in the season where they were playing the Miami Dolphins. So sitting down talking with him, immediately I came back and told Nick, I think we found one of the next head coaches in this next loop, because I was very impressed how organized he was, but also how realistic he was. He knew he didn't have the personnel to run a Sean McVay, a Kyle Shanahan, guys who've had influence on his coaching. So he said, I'm going to work with the personnel I have. I have a couple running backs. I have a good offensive line. I got Delanie Walker, end up losing him early in the season. So for me, he's going to come from a number of different ways. Through free agency, we know the front office, they help support Aaron Rodgers by building up their defense. But also, Mercedes Lewis came over as a tight end, so you can expect offensively they're going to play two tight ends more so than they have before. Also in the third round, they drafted a guy, Jay Sternberger, from Texas A&M. Scored 10 touchdowns last year in the SEC, because that's one of the areas where Aaron Rodgers and the Packers can get better. So we talked about earlier in the week, Nick, around NFL training camps, teams are playing more tight ends, so you can expect Matt LaFleur to do that. But his overall development, he's got to develop two players. And he's got to be able to develop the running back, Aaron Jones, to be able to have a constant running attack, and he's got to be able to develop another wide receiver. And is it Marquez Valdez-Scantling? Is he the next guy? Because when you look at their targets, Devontae Adams had 168 targets. Next from a wide receiver was 65 targets. You can't have that type of disparity, because defenses will tilt, take Devontae Adams out of it, and be able to lean and give Aaron Rodgers the other things. So I expect Matt LaFleur, don't look at necessarily what happened in Tennessee. Look for this to be a combination of the stuff that Aaron Rodgers did before, do some motion, get in and out of three tight ends, two tight ends, one tight end, three receivers, but ultimately support Aaron Rodgers, give him some help, so at the end of the game, Aaron Rodgers can be spectacular.
And when Cris mentions the tight ends, just to remind the audience, and they still, of course, have Jimmy Graham. So that Jimmy Graham plus Mercedes Lewis, or Jimmy Graham plus Jay Sternberger, the guy they drafted, the ability to do the two tight end set, which you're saying from talking to people around training camps is becoming more in vogue potentially in the NFL this season. There was a really interesting Aaron Rodgers quote earlier this week that didn't get near the attention some other Aaron Rodgers quotes did, because it was so positive about the head coach, which was, one of the things he said he's excited about in this offense is it feels like they are scheming guys open, as opposed to, he said, in previous years, we picked a side of the field and it was more beat your man. It was more, we trust you to win your battle. He thinks under Matt LaFleur, they have more likelihood where they're going to win before the ball is even snapped schematically. Now, the Packers are going to look differently. When you even if you don't see the game the way Cris does or other people, because they are historically under McCarthy, especially the last couple of years with Rodgers dealing with injury, incredibly shotgun heavy. Matt LaFleur is not a shotgun play caller. Matt Ryan talked about the biggest issue, the biggest adjustment for him when Matt LaFleur was there with Kyle Shanahan or in Atlanta was the play action from under center, because for a moment you have your back to the defense. If you're doing play action from shotgun, you can survey the field the whole time, and the amount of trust that it takes to be under center and run play action as often as we expect the Packers will. Rodgers said he talked to Matt Ryan about that very specific thing. We know now, as the NFL has gotten smarter, play action is one of, if not the most effective way to move the ball downfield. Even if you don't have an effective running game, play action can still be successful. The adjustment for the Packers is going to be the amount of time Aaron Rodgers is under center and the amount of time people are moving before the snap, where the Packers were near the bottom of the league last year. Tennessee was near the top of the league. Expect to see more pre-snap motion and a lot more under center as opposed to Aaron Rodgers in the gun pointing things out and going from there.
When you have a new head coach and he's implementing some semblance of a new offense, CeCe, how important is process over product, at least in the early going, in making sure everyone gets on the right page? And forget how it ends up, but at least in the preseason, how important is that?
One thing that I realize in mentoring players and teaching players, if you can teach them something that makes them better, then it becomes, wow, man, the process is all right. Because if you can make them better, Coach Mangini talks about it all the time. He talks about the ability to make a player. If you want to get a player's attention, make him better. So I think that all players, if you show them something new, if you show them that, you know something, Aaron, this guy right here, this tight end, I'm going to go this formation. This tight end is going to be open if they play cover 3. That process, as far as teaching, to me, is more important. It's just as important as ability. Because now Aaron Rodgers will dive into that because he's got a tremendous amount of confidence in their front office. He believes that Matt LaFleur is the guy. But in those critical times where you're learning people, you need to see something, hear something to be like, you know something? That right there is the reason why he's a head coach. And you could see in that article, and that's the thing about Aaron that probably gets him upset. The thing that he said that was the nugget was the football portion of it, and people ran with the other aspects of it.
And people might say, well, how can you really demonstrably make Aaron Rodgers better? I'll tell you how Aaron Rodgers can be better. He can start being the Aaron Rodgers he was the first half of his career as opposed to this half of his career. The numbers are pretty. The last 4 years, Rodgers has been good, but the 6 years prior, Rodgers was statistically the greatest start to a career anyone has ever had. Like, those are big differences now. Forget the win percentage if you say there's other factors. The yards per pass, that 8.4 would be the highest in NFL history. That 7.1 since then is in the 20th range over the course of the last 4 years. That passer rating would be the highest in NFL history. That 98 is good, but not great. And, of course, the 2 missed playoff appearances the last 4 years. So Rodgers knows he needs to be able to tap back into the Aaron Rodgers that we haven't seen. That 6-year window that was on the left column, that ended with that devastating conference championship game loss to the Seattle Seahawks. In those 6 years, he won 2 MVPs. They won a Super Bowl. They came this close to another Super Bowl. They haven't had that level of success as a team or individually. So for Rodgers, some of it is, how can Matt LaFleur help me get back to being the quarterback that I was? That wasn't one of the best quarterbacks in football. It was far and away the best quarterback in football. That's what we're going to see if in 2019 he can do.
All right, let's take a break. Talk about someone who would love to be Aaron Rodgers, Baker Mayfield. Baker and the Browns, could they live up to all the hype this season? That's next on FS1. You can always check us out on the Fox Sports channel on SiriusXM. We'll be right back. Welcome back. We'll get to Baker Mayfield in just a second, but first, a couple of highlights from last night. Dodgers and Marlins, and John Barrety making a terrific running, diving grab on the outfield grass.
My man got some wheels. He was off on the crack of the bat. You see that, Nick? Just like they teach in Little League. Jump stop when the pitcher's pitching. Man, he got off. He had some speed.
Nice speed here. Chargers practice. Mike Williams skies over the defender for the touchdown.
Big year for Mike Williams now. Got to build on some success from last season. See if, they drafted him to one day overtake Keenan Allen as the number 1. That obviously has not happened. We'll see if that duo has, in theory, could be one of the better duos in football. If
hadn't lived up to that first-round draft pick, Jenna. And you're right, that wasn't a great catch, but he hadn't done a whole bunch.
That was
Dolphins
a very good
and
catch.
Bucks joint practice here. Tampa Bay's Chris Godwin burns Xavier Howard with the one-handed catch. Howard, by the way, NFL's highest-paid corner.
And one of the best.
Nice job here.
That's a nice little play by Godwin.
Come on, let's check out that right foot at the end.
Oh, he's not in bounds. I agree. Oh, speaking of that, I'm glad you mentioned that. You still owe me $100 from the last inbounds out of bounds. I'm glad you mentioned that. Good highlight.
Wait,
good.
he wasn't in bounds there?
No.
It looked like he was. Look, one.
Wait,
no,
one.
Right there.
Two, yeah.
You're right, Jenna. Jenna's right. My $100 is back. Good bet, Chris.
What do you mean?
Good bet. Way to go, Jenna. Way to go, Jenna. Instant replay.
What just happened?
Yes. Get even.
Love you guys. Moving on to the Browns now. So the last time Cleveland won a playoff game, Baker Mayfield wasn't even born yet.
Wait, really?
I wasn't even done with college. Yeah. 25 years later, with his team all but daring the league to beat him, Baker is fully embracing the idea of getting Cleveland back to the promised land, saying, quote, hey, people want to see us lose just because the hype is so real. Nick, what's your reaction to Baker's comments, and where were you 25 years ago?
We should do that.
Where was I? 25 years ago, I was in 3rd grade. I was 9 years old. 25 years ago, Cris Carter was...
Was that the first time in 3rd grade or the time they held you back?
Yeah, that's
So
right.
what, with 1995?
1995, Cris Carter was a 2-time Pro Bowler at that point, maybe 3-time Pro Bowler at that point.
1995.
You had just set the NFL record.
Yeah.
And Jenna, you were on your...
Still in college?
Yeah.
Young and in college.
I was getting ready to go for 122 and 17 that year.
Oh, yeah.
122 catches.
Catches in 17, Warren Moon. So we were all in little
Where were
different
you?
places. I was in 3rd grade.
For the second.
Okay. So, listen, that was startling. I knew the Browns hadn't won a playoff game forever, but it is interesting that Baker literally wasn't born yet. I don't look at the Browns as a hype team. I look at the Browns as a very, very promising team. And I disagree with Baker that I think he's creating a chip on his shoulder because that's what he's always had. I think he's creating a narrative that it can't be no one believes in us because you're talking about hype. It now has to be everybody hates us. But the reality is everybody didn't hate the Browns. People are rooting against the Patriots, some people, because they're sick of them. Some people are rooting against the Cowboys because they get so much coverage. People are either believe that the Browns are overhyped or they're more like me and they're really excited to see what they can do this year. Even if it's not the team you root for, man, I can't wait to watch them on Sunday Ticket, see what Baker and Odell are going to be. But so I understand why Baker's doing this. In sports, for as long as sports have existed, the nobody believes in us chip has been a useful one and one that teams try to go to.
Worked for the Eagles.
Well, and even, I mean, what was it? Was it the Patriots last year that because they weren't the overwhelming favorites, they all of a sudden decided nobody believes in us? Even when it's fake, teams try to create it because that is a good go-to in sports. If you can't go to that, then the us against the world is the next best option. Everyone's against us. And so that's, to me, what Baker's trying to do, even though I don't think his commentary is exactly accurate with this.
Can I just say, I think what he meant was a little bit what Eric Mangini was on The Herd the other day, and he was telling Colin, the more that the Browns talk, the more opposing teams are looking on their schedule. Oh, we got the Browns? All right, pipe down a little bit. Maybe we get up a little bit more for this game. Maybe we have a little more edge to us in this game. So maybe it's less we hate you and more, oh, they're going to be gunning for us this season. Could it be that's what Baker means as well?
Every year, there are several teams that through free agency and through the draft, there are great expectations. The Jacksonville Jaguars were just like the Cleveland Browns, except Jacksonville didn't have as long of a bad history, but they were not winning games, and they started drafting players. Jalen Ramsey started saying stuff, and then what people started saying, we're coming after the Jags now. They're coming after their head. So I'm not concerned about what the league is saying because this is what I do know. If you are a good football team and you are a bad football team, when they toss that coin up and they say heads or tails, after that, they are trying to knock your head off. So Baker and all players in New England, you know what they're saying? It's us against the world. All right? It's an overplayed phrase. Everyone is trying to utilize it. But Baker and them, they do have. There are people out there doubting because the product. We only saw 7 games with Baker because of the long history. 7 wins with Baker. And because of the long history that they've had as far as losing, it's hard to take them serious. Yep. And to me, their young players, they have a very good nucleus because Baker being the leader and having success last year without OBJ. Just like when they went from Hugh, people forget what actually happened. They started playing some good, solid football. They started running the ball. They started protecting the quarterback. They started not just throwing the ball to Jarvis Landry. Before, when Hugh was there, Jarvis Landry was targeted 12 times. After Hugh left, he was only targeted less than 7. So they started attacking defenses with all their personnel. And then they added OBJ. And one of the huge component that Nick likes to talk about when him and I talk about is no one talks about their defense.
Right.
Myles Garrett could be defensive MVP. He could have 20 sacks this season, and Sheldon Richardson being added, Olivier Vernon coming over from the Giants. Like, this is a very good collection of young guys who have not accomplished a whole bunch in the NFL. Now they're going about it with the inexperienced coach, which I believe is the biggest question mark with Cleveland moving forward.
It's the big that and their offensive line to a degree. Greg Robinson at left tackle is going to leave some people a little concerned. It's one of the reasons why some people have speculated, could the Browns be a team that calls up Washington and sees if they actually do want to trade Trent Richardson? Now that would be a true all-in move on Cleveland, who's already made a lot of very aggressive moves. Or Trent Williams, not Trent Richardson, pardon me. Yeah. Trent Richardson's former running back. Trent Williams from Washington.
Yeah, that would be they can't trade back for him.
No, they can't.
They traded him to Indy.
They got a first-round pick for Trent Richardson years ago. But the other point on the defense is they made what I now, benefit of hindsight, in real time I didn't get it, but I think I understand it better now, made a savvy pick at number 4 with Denzel Ward last year. When everyone, I think everyone thought they were going to take the pass rusher, Chubb, they looked at it maybe correctly as, you know what nobody has enough of in this league right now? Corners. And you know what we think we're going to be able to do is find a pass rusher to pair opposite Myles Garrett through free agency. They did it with Olivier Vernon. So they draft Denzel Ward to supplement their back end. But when we're talking about overhyped, to me, to be overhyped, you have to not only be hyped, but have nothing. It's all just thought. Like the Niners, to me, are overhyped. We haven't seen the Niners be good with this regime, with this quarterback, once. There hasn't been a stretch of time where it's like, wow, the Niners look amazing.
We gave them a pass, though. Because Jimmy G, and we like him. We like Shanahan. We like John Lynch. We're not criticizing them, but they have done nothing.
Done nothing, and a lot of people, Vegas says their projected wins is 8.5.
Yeah, but Vegas is projecting these guys to make the playoffs and to do well in the playoffs. And I know there were 3 games last year that had they won, they would probably be in the playoffs. And win the division and beat the Steelers. I mean, there are people who said they could go to the Super Bowl. That doesn't sound like overhyped to you when we've not seen anything more than a small sample size last season?
This is the thing. What they have is real. They have what we're searching for. We couldn't have these shows if they didn't have the talk about NFL quarterbacks. So now we have a Heisman Trophy winner, not like a bunch of other ones, who can play pro football. Wow, his skills adapt to the pro game, and he's in a city that people would love to see a winner. Great football fans, the weather there, the character there. Yeah, it's not hype, though. Like, he's a good... The coach? Is the coach worthy to be a head coach in the NFL? I can understand if you're going to question that. But if you're questioning Baker Mayfield, his ability, you're wrong. John Dorsey, his ability to put together a competent team, hire a coach, you're wrong. And they got star players up and down. Not only 22-year-olds, they got some 26-year-old, 28-year-old. They don't have a bunch of guys in their 30s. So if you look at a young roster, I don't see a more promising young roster in the NFL than the Cleveland Browns have.
And every year, there's going to be a third of the playoff teams from the previous year that are out and at least 4 new ones in. It's usually 5. Some years it's 6. So if you have to pick some teams that didn't make it last year. To me, logic passes. How about a team that was only 2 games out of the playoffs, who was playing a rookie quarterback, who made a change at head coach that, even though there's questions about Kitchens, to me, there's not questions about Hugh. There's answers, and they're not great ones. That also added the most talented receiver, one of the most talented receivers in the league, and a pass rusher, and has other young guys that you expect to improve.
Yeah.
It makes sense. Now, could they fall flat on their faces? Could Baker have a sophomore slump?
Of course.
Could Freddie Kitchens not know how to do anything regarding clock management? All those things are on the board. But if I'm out there and I'm like, man, who's going to be that was out last year in this year? I'd sure as hell rather pick the Browns than the Bills. They got a second-year quarterback. To me, it makes sense. The logic follows.
Yeah. If Freddie Kitchens was only the offensive coordinator, and he didn't have any of that game experience that he had last year, then I would be more apt to say, you know something, I'm going to wait a year on the Browns. But I saw him. I saw him run their offense. I saw the control he had and the command he had of that room there in Cleveland. So I believe in it. So it's not hype. Talent is the most important thing. Chemistry, character, all those other things. I am a little bit concerned about their wide receiving core, spreading the ball around, body language on the sidelines.
Right.
I am concerned about those little type of things. But those are good worries to have.
Right. All right, let's take a break. Coming up, will we see Patrick Mahomes regrets after his MVP season? That's next on First Things First. Time for us to go viral. Rams running back Todd Gurley will reportedly not be traveling with the team to play their Week 2 preseason game against the Cowboys. That gives him more time to spend with this little guy.
What's up, everybody? Finally got that cat I've been talking about, but I never had one before. Any tips? Say hi, little one. Hi, everybody.
I've got a tip for Todd Gurley. Give it back. Cat's never going to love you. It's not going to show any loyalty to you. It won't know its name. Can't do anything with it. Can't walk it. If you open the door, it'll run away, hope to never come back. Cats are the biggest hoax in the animal world right now. What up, C?
Go on Twitter. Check out Rex Chapman. Dogs, bruh.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Dogs, bro.
Yeah, agreed. Rex Chapman, great Twitter follower, and I know what you're talking about there. But yeah, why would you, in what world would you opt if you can get a dog, a great animal, a loyal animal, a protecting animal, or a cat who would kill you if he could?
Nick,
why would you choose door B? Why?
Be careful.
The cat lobby is going to come after me?
The cat lobbyists of America, they are strong, they are fierce.
Okay, yeah.
They are going to get together. They will be outside these studios when the show is over, and you will hear from them.
I will die on this hill.
I hope somebody. That's what I hope for every day. When I leave the studio, I hope somebody get in my way.
Happens about once every 6 months, and it is entertaining every time.
There goes my coffee. Time for stories to start your morning. Packers taking on the Ravens tonight. Aaron Rodgers will be rolling out this new Matt LaFleur offense as the starters plan to play a quarter or so. CC, what should we expect from the Packers offense under LaFleur this year?
I think Nick and I, when we talked about it before, multiple formations, less shotgun than what they did before. Also taking more deep shots down the field after play action. You get more of a realistic fake when the quarterback is under center and he goes to hand the ball off and goes into play action compared to shotgun where the ball it's harder to see the defender. So that's one of many things Matt LaFleur and the Packers look to change.
And clearly the scheme got stale under McCarthy, and Rodgers said as much without saying it in an interview this week when he said last year we were really just hoping for guys to win their one-on-one matchups.
Line up, I'm better than you.
Exactly. This year, he said he's excited because he feels like guys are going to be schemed open pre-snap. That's easier reads, easier completions, which can then lead to Aaron Rodgers only having to be brilliant in moments as opposed to the entire game. I'm really excited to watch this team.
LaFleur also said more of an up-tempo offense. Yep. He wants to see it go a little faster. All right, Matt Ryan will also make his 2019 debut tonight with the Falcons, hosting the Jets. Many wondering if Atlanta can bounce back after missing the playoffs last season. See, are people sleeping on the Falcons?
I think that they are. I mean, they have great personnel. Also, we tend to forget what happened the previous season. Their season was over after week number 1. Tough loss at Philadelphia. They lose 3 starters in that game. The next week, they lose a couple more starters, so their season was over with. They got Dirk Cutter as their offensive coordinator. I talked to Matty Ice at the Hall of Fame game, and he said it's going to be a hybrid offense. Part of what I like, part of what Shanahan did in the beginning, and part of what Dirk Cutter, back to your point, they're going to go more hurry up. Also, that's going to be one of the themes moving in the 2019 season.
I have no questions about the Falcons' offense. They will have a top 10 offense. They likely will have a top 6 offense. I have a lot of questions about the defense, even if they get luckier when it comes to injuries. If they can have a top half defense, they'll be back in the playoffs. I'm skeptical if they can.
Also, they changed their defensive coordinator, changed their offensive coordinators, changed their special teams coordinator.
Right.
Watch for continuity as they start the first month of the season.
All right, you can add Amari Cooper to the Cowboys' long list of headaches. Their Pro Bowl receiver is reportedly dealing with a plantar fascia issue that will sideline him for preseason action. See, how serious is this injury for Cooper and the Cowboys?
Besides the knee injury, this is one of the worst ones for a wide receiver. When you're running your patterns, and especially in cleats, because the cleats are being compressed into the hard surface, so right through your heel, you feel like a nail is going through your heel almost every step. A lot of wide receivers have struggled with it. Typically, when you get out of two-a-days, it alleviates some of the pain, but it is a chronic thing. Typically, will hamper you throughout the season. So let's just watch this. Watch Amari Cooper as far as his overall productivity, because this training camp, him and Dak were supposed to get up to speed because they haven't had any offseason work together.
I don't know if this is something you dealt with in your career or not, but I'm wondering, other than rest, is there anything he can do?
Orthotics, change his shoes. A lot of times you have to go to Nike and have Nike put either like a steel plate in the bottom of the shoes or make you a special shoe that maybe you wear a 13 on one shoe, wear a 13.5 on the other shoe.
All right, moving on. Tom Brady is gearing up for his 20th season, and with Brady fresh off celebrations of his 6th Super Bowl victory and his 42nd birthday, respectively, many wonder how much the GOAT has left in the tank. Cris was on the herd yesterday with a unique perspective on TV 12 and some hard truth.
Has he declined? Of course he has. I mean, he's not that age. But if you're declining and winning Super Bowls, that's pretty good, right? And so I think that Howie Long used to say that as your physical elevator starts to go down, your mental elevator starts to go up. And I think that's true for Tom Brady, too.
You agree with Cris, CC?
I mean, I love Cris Collinsworth. He mentioned another guy. Him and Howie Long are the guys that probably taught me before my ESPN days with Tom Jackson the most about TV and how does it correlate what you know to what you're going to talk about. So he's got it right. And he's a huge fan of Tom Brady. But if you're analyzing the game, you can't look at Tom Brady and say, you know something, that's the way he was 5 years ago. No, he wasn't. We have seen him tail off. And he'd be getting more criticism if they had come up a little bit short in Kansas City.
Yeah.
If they hadn't won it, or in the Super Bowl.
That game could have ended with his interception.
Yes.
I mean, it did for a moment end with his interception, and then Dee Ford, they saw he was offsides. But, I mean, that could have been how that game ended.
Right. And we see the same thing with Drew Brees. We see the same thing with Phillip Rivers. We see that a little less with Ben Roethlisberger because he's gifted more physically than the rest of them. But that's what you want. At the end of it, they're playing the position where the athleticism, it can keep going down as long as the elevator on the intellect scheme keeps going up. But what I worry about with Tom Brady is personnel. Yeah. How many times are they going to just send him out there with just, like LeBron, 4 sheets of paper? Remember that in Cleveland? That's how all that went down. You know, you have to build support, and I know Belichick, their defense, he's going to be hands-on in the defense. The defense will be a top 5 defense. But at the end, you'd like to see Tom Brady have some little things to be able to work with. That's why they still hold on to the idea of Josh Gordon coming back. Because that's how desperate they are at wide receiver.
Well, to your point on the weapons, we can talk about the decline of Tom Brady because it's been all the way since 2 years ago when he won a league MVP. So we're talking about a 1-year decline. But what was the deal 2 years ago in 2017? Oh, he had Brandon Cooks. And when he won the MVP in 2010, he had Gronk, Hernandez, and Welker. And when he won the MVP in 2007, he had Apex Randy Moss. And so when Brady has been, it was not that long ago that Brady had a brilliant season. I know they didn't win the Super Bowl in 2017, but he was extraordinary. He led the NFL in passing attempts and passing yards. They weren't no ground and pound team that year.
Nope.
They traded for Brandon Cooks. Gronk was still close to the Gronk we were used to, and they were out there slinging it. And they went 13-3 and won league MVP. Now, last year, we certainly saw some of the physical deterioration. He wasn't able to make all the throws, and he was, I think it was judicious. I think it was careful. You mentioned LeBron. I think it was similar to LeBron judging his energy on the defensive end. Brady went down early. Brady was not hanging out in that pocket when he didn't need to take extra hits. Mm-hmm. And I think that was the smart way to do things. But the other element to Collinsworth's comment that I found really interesting is he said the Howie Long quote, which is your physical elevator goes down, your mental elevator goes up. The concern for Brady, and this would be one of those good problems, but is Brady's mental elevator the last 5 years has probably been near the top of where it possibly could be. I can't imagine Tom Brady in year 20 knows a ton more football than Tom Brady in year 19. Like he said to you 3 years ago he has all the answers to the test.
Well, with the rule changes and new personnel, that's how you can acquire a different level of knowledge. Like, he's not used to working with these guys. He's got a rookie they drafted in the first round. That's not something Belichick does. So those types of things, it's not as if the elevator's going up. It's, I got to elevate to that level for this guy.
With new
and because I don't have Gronk, and because I'm not going to get as many attempts.
Right.
So I have to be more efficient with the attempts that I do get.
That's why it's so mind-boggling to me that they know and they have all the information that you have, that Tom Brady's at his best when he's got someone to throw the ball to. And yet they don't seem to stack that offense with people he can throw the ball to. I mean, they had Gronk until Gronk basically flamed out and couldn't do it anymore. And they haven't really replaced them knowing where Tom Brady is in his career. And, yeah, they're going to go into it with a stacked defense, and that's great. But you still have Tom Brady that you're throwing out there. Who's he going to throw the ball to? I don't know.
They're going to run the ball. They are going to run the ball. We have to believe what they are. New England adapts to their personnel better than any other team. Sometimes we don't adapt to what we're seeing.
I know.
But this will be one of the better NFL teams. It's just that it will be led by their defense.
And they are just so judicious with how they spend cap resources. If there was a good deal to be had, they thought there was a good deal to be had on a Brandon Cooks this year, they'd have done it. I don't think they're against giving him weapons. I think they will just only do it at the right price, and they won't compromise any of their principles.
Even in year 120,
even in year 20, they won't do it because they saw in year 19
Brady.
he didn't have it. They still won the Super Bowl.
All right, let's move on to the Chiefs now. Coming off a season where they accomplished nearly everything but a Super Bowl win, where their offense led the league in yards and points, and where their young quarterback threw for 5,000 yards and 50 touchdowns, en route to MVP honors. Safe to say, Chiefs are in a good place coming into this season, but Casey's all-pro tight end Travis Kelce thinks this is just the beginning.
The sky's the limit for this offense. Just the guys that are here, that have been here the past couple of years, we're especially here last year. We're taking it up a level that we have in years past, and it's you can just tell from the coach's excitement to their attention to detail to how guys are reacting to their coaching. This team is going to be awesome, and we're going to have a lot of fun on the offensive side of the ball.
Nick, is Travis Kelce right? Can this offense actually get better?
Well, I don't know if they're going to have one of the top 8 scoring offenses in the history of the league again, but I think the offense can present more problems for defenses. I think the kid they drafted to replace Tyreek Hill, but now you still have Tyreek Hill in McCole Hardman, who has really turned a lot of heads at training camp as kind of a lesser version of Tyreek Hill. Track speed, you know, amazing as far as ability to get down the field. They're going to be able to put out there as far as receiving options. Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelce, Sammy Watkins, McCole Hardman. If Sammy Watkins is your third option, which is what he will be when he's out there, that's a hell of a weapon to have. If you were starting a team from scratch with Patrick Mahomes as your quarterback, the first wide receiver you might pick would be Tyreek Hill, and the first tight end you would pick would definitely be Travis Kelce of all the players in the league. And they already have them. So I have no concerns about the Chiefs' offense. None. I don't think Mahomes is going to regress. I don't think all of a sudden defenses are going to figure it out. The concerns are they made a lot of changes on defense. Did they get actually better on defense? They changed out defensive coordinators from Sutton to Spagnuolo. They brought in Frank Clark, but at the expense of Dee Ford and Justin Houston. They bring in Tyrann Mathieu, but at the expense of Eric Berry, who didn't really play last year. How will the defense go from horrible to just below average? That's what will determine if the Chiefs actually make it to the Super Bowl. I don't think an offensive regression is going to hold them back this season.
Well, NFL history tells us they're going to come back. They're not going to be able to duplicate it. The greatest shows that we have seen offensively, that next year, typically they came back to the pack. I don't know, Nick, if there's a team that backed up a record-setting performance with being able to reach that level. Even the greatest show on turf, they came back. The 98 Vikings, they came back. The Pats, Randy Moss and Brady, they came back. So, yes, we should expect that. That's what NFL history tells us. But I'm not going to concentrate on the defense. I'm going to wait and see approach. Their offense is going to get a lot better if their defense can just stop a nosebleed instead of a punch to the face.
Right.
All right? Like, they were awful. And they are not The team they put on the field last year, I know they got close with New England, but their defense was so bad. You can't have a championship team. That would have been the worst defense that I can remember in the last 25 years that won a championship. If they were able to get through that and then finish off the Rams in the Super Bowl. So for me, offensively, can they be a little bit more? I know they got a lot of speed. Can they be just a little more ball control? Can them acquiring Carlos Hyde, which I believe still has a lot of good football in him. I believe the mix of him and Damian Williams, but Carlos Hyde being able to convert a lot of those third downs in shorts. And now, if I'm Andy Reid, I know my defense. I don't trust them. I'm like Belichick used to be a number of years ago. I don't trust them. Peyton Manning going to drive down the field. I'm going to go for it on fourth down. Put Carlos Hyde in there, and now they have a team that can go for it on fourth down. Late in games, you can put him in, and he can milk that clock. You can't always be an explosive team like you are. There are some games you have to get into where you have to control the clock. That 98 Vikings team, we had a 10-point lead in the NFC Championship against the Falcons, but we couldn't control the ball. Yes, one of the most explosive teams ever, but when we needed 2 first downs to be able to keep that clock moving, we couldn't get it, gave the ball back. Our defense did what they normally do, open up the front and the back door. Atlanta went down twice in a row and scored back-to-back, and now we're going to overtime. So for me, let's be a little more physical on that offensive side. Let's get time of possession. They're not going to win time of possession because they're going to score a lot of points. But let's try to get maybe a minute and a half more per game.
I think it's a really important point. And I think you look at it and you're like, man, don't you just want to score as quickly as possible? Kind of. But your point on what it does to your defense, especially if it's a bad defense, you having been in not just because you played, but on that specific team, very similar to last year's Chiefs team, amazing offensive weapons and scored quick. The Chiefs had 34 touchdown drives last year that were 3 minutes or fewer. That was the most in the NFL by a huge margin. They scored the most touchdowns of anyone in the league. Yet all year long, they only had 2 touchdown drives that went longer than 6 minutes. That was the least in the NFL. Right? So because it was so much quick strike. They had 27 touchdowns that were 5 plays or fewer. And so you think that is a compliment to your offense, but if your defense is that bad, it helps you, but not to the degree you think it should.
And I got bad news for the NFL, man. Tyreek Hill is just getting started. Last year was his first year as a full receiver, running crossing routes, playing in the slot, playing the Z some, running a bunch of reverses. Like, the overall responsibility that he had as far as the amount of offense he had to know, and now Andy Reid can grow that. Oh, my goodness. Tyreek Hill, to me, he's the most dangerous receiver in the NFL. Not the best. That's Julio Jones. But the most dangerous because Andy Reid, Patty Mahomes, and the other people around it, I'm really excited to see where he takes his game to in 2019.
It's going to be a fun team to watch. All right, take a break. Coming up, will the hype be too much for Baker and the Browns this season? That's still ahead on First Things First. Back here, First Things First, we're joined by former All-Pro running back Brian Westbrook. Good morning, Brian.
Good morning. Morning. Football's back.
Football is back. Yeah, we got a lot to talk about.
Before you get started, man, you need to know there's some new rules on First Things First. We're going into year number 3.
Oh.
It's hashtag Year of the Truth.
Okay.
We had Bart Scott out here a couple days ago. I'm breaking down, analyzing the analysts as they go through the segment. So if you're here for 3 or 4 segments, if you don't do well on the first one, not saying you will, but Bart didn't.
Okay.
I had to get a trash bag. He was so bad.
He literally got a trash bag.
Now, yesterday, Canty responded well,
big
but I just want to warn you.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
Okay.
I appreciate that.
Year number 3.
Absolutely.
Hashtag
Just so you
telling
know,
the truth.
since you're an All-Pro, just like our friend Chris Carter was, you get to evaluate him as well. I'm gonna extend that.
Yeah, all good.
Courtesy
Yes.
to you.
Yeah, wasn't good in the A's and the B's. I was spectacular.
Hey, in 2018, the Cardinals traded up to take Josh Rosen with the 10th overall pick. They said they found their guy. In 2019, they traded away Josh Rosen and used their number 1 overall pick on Kyler Murray. Surprisingly, they told us they found their guy again. Cardinals GM Steve Keim offered up a little clarity yesterday, saying, quote, all right, taking this guy number 1, I took a lot of grief for that. You have to make the tough decisions and avoid the outside noise. Why'd you give up on this guy? Why would you trade this guy? It's unprecedented. I took Rosen in the top 10. I just felt that Murray was a generational talent. that I just couldn't pass up. Brian, do you believe that Kyler is a generational talent?
Well, first of all, I think the general manager has to say that. I think he's in a position where you made all those decisions, moved all those draft picks to get Josh Rosen, and then he doesn't come to the table and bring wealth and wins to that organization, and you move on from it, and then you draft a 5'10" quarterback. You have to believe that he's a generational talent. And you know, for me, here's the thing. I think generational talents are players that you can drop in any offense, on any team, and that team gets better automatically.
That's fair.
I don't know that Kyler Murray is that. I think that the air raid offense has to fit him perfectly for them to be successful in Arizona. And I think this offense does. It fits the things that he does very well. He understands it. He knows it. He's had run a version of this offense in college. I think he's going to be very good at it. But can you drop him in a traditional offense? Absolutely not. Mm-hmm. He's not going to be a guy that can stand in the pocket and throw the ball 35 times a game because he's a little bit smaller. You have to do some different things. Roll the pocket, do some things, get him on the edge to make him useful, to make him and say he's a generational talent. You dropping him anywhere, and he's going to be successful. Peyton Manning, guys like Andrew Luck, generational talents. Andrew Luck certainly hasn't played out that way, but coming out of college, he was a generational talent. I'm not sure that Kyler Murray is that yet.
Yeah, Jenna has got it right. I mean, they have to be all in.
Yeah.
Because of what they did at coach. Not only did they fire their coach last year after one season, which wasn't fair to him, and then getting rid of Josh Rosen, which wasn't fair to him. I can understand. If you feel like you got Andrew Luck in the pipeline, yeah, someone like that, as far as that label, generational talent, I'm just going to wait a little bit, all right? And I have the fact, I've been covering this league for a long enough time. There are certain people you just can't jump out and say they're going to be this, they're going to be that. I'm going to tell you who Kyler is, though. He's a combination of the NFL being upset at themselves that they missed on Russ Wilson. All right? They missed on him out of Wisconsin. He had all the credentials off the field. Was also a professional baseball player. Mm-hmm. Led North Carolina State to a bowl game. Transferred over to Wisconsin in that 5th year. 2 days on campus. They make him team captain. He leads them to another New Year's Day bowl game. And you know what? Because he's 5'10", third round is as high as he can get. And then after that, in college, we saw Baker Mayfield. And then Baker comes out last year. And I know what these general managers are. And Steve Keim's like, I'll be damned. I'm on the hot seat, too. Just imagine this. When you were watching Lamar Jackson in college play for Louisville, you said, man, what would he be like if he could throw? If he could throw, he would be like Kyler Murray.
Yep.
And that's why the Arizona Cardinals, all those things have happened in the league. Russell has been successful on and off his leadership. Kyler has that little quiet confidence, a lot like him. General managers know they missed on Russ. General managers started coming around on Baker, even New England. If he had slipped a little bit, New England was trying to get in on Baker. So they're giving these smaller guys more of a chance. But saying that he can play in the 60s, 70s, 80s, no. Let's just slow down a little bit. I do believe he is a special athlete. High school football might be the greatest football player in the state of Texas. Did not lose a game. So for me, he was worth the risk, Nick.
So I went to high school with a kid and was good friends with a guy who, the whole time growing up, wanted to be an Air Force pilot. Only thing he ever talked about, wanted to be an Air Force pilot. Was reading Air Force books in junior high school, focused on it, did all the things you need to do. And he was a basketball team of mine. And he just kept growing. And he kept growing, and he kept growing. It was great for basketball. And all of a sudden, never stopped growing. 6'6", almost 6'7". Guess what? Not allowed to be an Air Force pilot. You got to fit in the cockpit. And he had everything, done everything right, fit past everything, but was just a little too big for the job. That is the only thing that is my concern about Kyler, but in the opposite direction. He checks every box. Never lost a game in high school. Great. I was in Texas when he was in high school. It was Paul Bunyan stories about what he was doing for that team. We saw him in 1 year of college football break all of the records Baker had just broken that had lasted in college football for 100 years. But is he just a little too small? If he's not, then A, it opens the door to a lot of future guys in college football that we have decided are too small. If he's not, it also might make people reevaluate, wait, did we make a player change position that we shouldn't have made change position? There will be a lot of revisionist history on who could have been.
Which there was when Russell Wilson became successful.
Absolutely
there was revisionist history on that as well.
And by the way, Russell Wilson was very fortunate. He was drafted by the organization that he was, because there's a lot of teams that if they would have taken him in the 3rd round with the quarterback they had just signed, he would have never gotten on the field, even if he had deserved to get on the field. So my concern with Kyler is simply, does he not pass the height threshold? Now, people probably had that concern about you to a degree at a very different position, and you obviously proved there is no height threshold if you're good enough, at least at running back. Does that apply to quarterback? I'm not as certain.
Yeah, that's a big question. I think the size thing, and I faced it my entire career. So I think you go into the league with a chip on your shoulder, and Kyler Murray, he has the ability, talent-wise, to handle all those types of questions. He's done it his entire career. Best thing for Kyler, and you kind of mentioned it, is that he's going to an offense that's going to focus on his strong suits, the things that he does very well. The offense is really built for him. He understands the offense. He understands the small nuances of the offense. He'll do a very good job. Generational is a whole different story, but he's a talent, a super type of athlete. That's what you want in a player, especially if you're going to draft him 1st overall.
2 weekends ago, I went to the Hall of Fame. It's the room of the greatest football players ever. And it's only a couple small guys in there now.
Yeah.
Now they're special. Darrell Green, bunch of special little guys, but not a whole bunch of them. Like, all the people in the league, Westbrook will tell you this, all the small guys, ain't none of them saying I wish I was smaller. All of them saying I wish they was bigger.
That's right.
Just like the guys who couldn't run like myself. We wish we were faster. So, man, people saying height don't matter, that's a short guy talking. Don't listen to him.
Height doesn't matter. Don't believe that. Height doesn't matter. It's your heart. That's what you got to have.
Everyone in that Arizona organization succeeds. If he succeeds, it's all in their best interest for them to put the right personnel around him, the right offense around him, and make sure he looks good on that field. All right, Brian, stick around. Coming up, are Aaron Rodgers and the new-look Packers still a threat to win the NFC? That's next on First Things First.
You earned your spot in the East. Yeah. That was nice. You came out pumping.
Those are short guys' comments. Height doesn't matter.
Back here, Brian Westbrook talking Packers. Aaron Rodgers getting set to take this Matt LaFleur offense out for a spin tonight against the Ravens as the starters plan to play a quarter or so. All the preseason talk about the coach-quarterback relationship on full display tonight. Brian, what should we expect from the Packers offense under LaFleur this year?
You know, I think you're still going to see a lot of the same. Aaron Rodgers throwing the football down the field, finding a way to get the ball to Devontae Adams. I think what you want to see, and everybody in the league wants to see, is them have some balance. They were the league's worst run team last year. I'm talking about 21 attempts per game. In my day, that was your starting running back, just 21 attempts. That's
right,
just
you can
one
chart
guy.
that off.
Yeah, that,
them 65 plays, 21 of them gone.
Absolutely. And so, you know, when you have a team that's going to throw the ball 40-plus times because you have that type of talent at quarterback, of course you want to be able to do that. You have to have some balance. Green Bay has already seen that you can't win Super Bowls without having some balance. Here's a big thing that I want to see from Aaron Rodgers and Matt LaFleur, too. Will Aaron Rodgers trust him? And you won't see it in the preseason because it's, you know, listen, Aaron Rodgers is going to go out there. He's going to run the plays that are called. But will he trust Matt LaFleur in the 3rd and 4th quarter when it's 3rd down and 5 and he has a run play called? Will he trust him when it's 4th down and 2 and he has play action and he's trying to get the ball down the field? Will he trust him then? Or will he change the runs to a pass and sometimes pass to a run? Rarely ever does. Quarterbacks rarely go from pass to run. But will he trust him enough to trust his play calls, especially in those crunch time situations?
And Aaron and Matt LaFleur sat down with Robert Mays, and I thought they both had some really interesting comments. And one of them was where Aaron said, listen, I need my autonomy in 2 spots in particular, the red zone and 2-minute. And Matt understands that. Yeah. That in the red zone, it's so much about what I see, and in 2-minute, we got to be able to go fast. So I can't be waiting on you.
In a 2-minute drive, if there's 32 starting quarterbacks, 30 of them, the quarterback is calling the plays.
Right.
The other 2 are guys who just starting, and the coach and the quarterback are alternating. So what Aaron is saying, I can't have somebody talking in my ear. I don't need that. He should have at least that, because even great quarterbacks have that full control.
And it seemed like in this piece that what Aaron was saying was, he's going to give me that, and I'm going to give him what you're talking about. The trust in, I'm going to be under center a hell of a lot more than I used to be. We're going to go from being a team with almost no pre-snap motion, about 25% of the time, to a team like the Titans that had pre-snap motion more than 50% of the time. Why does that matter? Well, it's just less time for Aaron Rodgers once the players are actually where they're going to be to look at the defense. And he's going to, and this was the biggest hurdle for Matt Ryan, his 2 years when Matt LaFleur was the quarterback coach. He's going to be under center, which means in play action spots, he's going to have his back to the defense for a quarter second. And Matt Ryan said, man, that was my hardest adjustment.
Yep.
I like to be able to watch that defense the whole time.
Yes.
You're asking me to do play action from under center. I'm going to have to turn my back. And Aaron said, I think it was at a golf tournament or something with Matt Ryan, where he talked to him about that specific adjustment, where you are taking what is your maybe second best asset after your arm, your eyes, and putting them away for a moment during the play because it's what the play calls for. That's what Aaron's going to have to adjust to.
So explain it to me, because I don't understand. Why would you take something away from arguably one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time? If he says, "Oh, I'm really good at this," why would you say, "All right, I will give this to you, and I will let myself do it your way"? Why not do it Aaron Rodgers' way if he feels comfortable and let Matt LaFleur work on things that didn't work last year?
Because every horse needs a course.
That's right.
All right? And as much as Aaron Rodgers knows, you can't take the cameras, all the coaches in the booth, all that information, all that wealth of knowledge that they have, and be like, no, Aaron, we believe what you're seeing is better. No, it's better off when they work together. So Aaron's ability, feel for the game, yes, we are going to utilize that. But we have a system, and the system is, first of all, we're going to make the defense more physical. Offensively, we're going to get back to running the football, because if they don't run the ball, I don't care what kind of play action you have, it's not going to be effective. So Aaron's got to buy into going under center, also believing in those running plays, because they're going to set up the play action for him that now Aaron, once he gets out of into the pocket and into his passing motion, you have the threat of a run, which is what the coaches want. And now Aaron's still quarterbacking, delivering the ball down the field. Both of these guys, I believe, should be very happy. But I'm expecting the same thing that I expect from my kids in high school when I coach them. I tell them, when you show up, submit your talent to the coach every single day. Aaron Rodgers, LeBron James, both of them have new coaches late in their career. They've been very successful. I want them to do the same thing. Vogel's going to have some rotations defensively. I don't care if LeBron can't get there. I need his body language to be positive and act as if he's buying in. Aaron Rodgers, the same thing. Get back to what got you into the game, and I believe both of them will do that, and it's important for their franchises if they want championships.
The hardest thing for veteran players, especially successful veteran players like Aaron Rodgers, is to adapt something new. To say, I'm not going to do what I've done that made me successful, being able to see the defense, and I'm going to turn my back and allow the defense to see my back, and I'm not seeing the field. It's very, very hard to do, especially later on in your career. Aaron Rodgers has to understand, to your point, CC, that for the betterment of this team, if you want to win, then we have to change things. Well, we can keep doing it the same way that you and Mike McCarthy did it for years, and you call the plays and you kind of disrupt the coach. Or we can actually try to win, do something different. We're going to run the ball a little bit more. We're going to play to our defense a little bit more and try to win that way. That's where Aaron Rodgers has to be sold. Winning is better than you just getting great stats and us not winning.
And Jenna, to answer your question maybe in a different way, the quarterback might put in the longest hours at the facility of any of the players, but nobody puts in the hours the coaches do. The coach is there before everybody and thereafter. And we look at it as Matt LaFleur's mind. It's Matt LaFleur's mind combined with the staff, the coordinators, everyone. So what those guys are doing in the week leading up to it are seeing things that while Rodgers is practicing, while Rodgers is rehabbing, of tendencies of the defense that he then has to trust. Wait, why are they telling me to do this? It's because those sleeping at the office, ridiculous hours, they see, oh, when the corner shades him this way, this is what you can expect. That's where he can learn from Matt LaFleur.
Another thing that Green Bay and that organization know, they do know that Minnesota Vikings sacked the quarterback 50 times last year. Aaron Rodgers, up close and personal, has felt it 2 seasons ago, knocked out. And Chicago Bears, 50 sacks. They got 100 sacks between the two teams coming after them. If they don't get physical, if they don't provide some play action, Aaron Rodgers will have those guys in the backfield, that being the Vikings and the Bears.
We'll get to Matt Ryan in a second, but first, check out Jake Clark, the jumper, with the 360 honey dip in a dunk contest in Shanghai. Is the honey dip that's the stain on?
It's hanging, yeah, it's hanging your elbow in the rim. Vince Carter invented this. The dunks that Vince Carter did in that famous slam dunk contest, greatest slam dunk contest ever.
Yeah, dude cheated the 360, though. He got a running start. He got halfway around. You see that?
Listen,
his back was already to the rim.
195 instead of a 360, but still a great dunk.
Chargers practice. Mike Williams skies over the defender for the touchdown here.
Jenna was looking at me like, Chris, why we got this in the highlights? The reason why Mike Williams hadn't lived up to the expectations. That top 10 pick out of Clemson. Not doing the type of damage they thought he would, opposite of my man Keenan Allen there with the Chargers. Big year for him.
Huge year for him to realize some of that potential, and they should be one of the best duos in football.
Dolphins-Bucks joint practice. Tampa Bay's Chris Godwin burns Xavier Howard with the one-handed catch. Howard, the highest paid, one of the best corners in the league, too.
Oh, he definitely is. He's earned that paycheck, even though he's playing there with the Dolphins. He doesn't get the hype nationally that other. But Godwin, this is a great catch, leaving the quarterback just enough room. Did he get his second foot in, Jenna?
I don't. You asked.
Let's bet 50 on it, Jenna.
Look.
Bet 50 with Nick.
Okay, good, because I think he did.
I don't think so. And Jenna don't pay her
Ooh.
debts. I ain't betting with Jenna no more.
What?
Jenna don't pay her debts.
Jenna do pay her bet and did. All my bets are paid up with you.
Oh, check it.
What am I checking? Moving on to the Falcons now.
She got.
Matt Ryan will make his 2019 debut tonight against the Jets, the former MVP, entering his 12th season in the NFL. And with Atlanta coming off a disappointing season in which they missed the playoffs, many wondering if Matty Ice and the Falcons can fly under the radar, pun fully intended, and get back to the postseason. See, are people sleeping on Atlanta?
They are. And the reason why people forgot what happened to them last season, they just thought, man, they underachieved last year. Well, yes, they did, but for a number of reasons. After that first game in Philadelphia, they lose at least 2 starters in that game. In the next 2 weeks, they lose another couple starters. So their season was already, the month of September, they weren't going to be able to make the playoffs. They weren't going to be healthy enough. But from an offensive standpoint, we know they're always, as long as they have Julio, as long as they have Matty Ice, as long as they have Freeman in the backfield, they're going to be one of the most explosive offenses. And they have one of the best wide receiving core, tight end slashes that if you look at their personnel, they're skilled guys. They're 5 skilled guys. They're in the top 5 group of skilled guys. And Matty Ice, to me, is an underrated quarterback. So I believe the head coach does a good job there. But how does he overcome? He changed his special teams coordinator. He changed his defensive coordinator, changed his offensive coordinator. Now Matty Ice, 3rd coordinator in the last 5 years. Dirk Cutter's coming over from being the head coach there in Tampa. So Matty Ice is excited about the season. They have the offensive personnel in this new NFL. They're going to be a top 5 scoring team, Nick. So, yes, but in that division,
right.
Where's the room?
Where's the room? And while people bring up the fact, oh, Atlanta got ruined by injuries, and it's correct. Well, another team in their division who was doing better than them halfway through the season got ruined by injuries too, but it was one injury. It was to their quarterback, Carolina. Carolina was 5-2, and then their quarterback got hurt. It wasn't 5 guys on one side of the ball,
right,
but it maybe had the same impact because it was their quarterback and what it did to his ability to play. The other thing, listen, Atlanta had bad luck in multiple ways last year. The injuries and that first month of the season, 1st and goal against Philly, the same way their season ended the year before, down 6, 1st and goal, you can't punch it in. They then lose an overtime game to New Orleans where they never get the ball. Drew Brees just drives down the field. And in the first month, they lost Andy Dalton, I think it was Andy Dalton, threw a touchdown pass with 10 seconds left to beat them by 1.
Yep.
So they had 3 games, could have gone the other way, and all the injuries, and it just kills you. And it's unfortunate because I think they had a really good window. The year they make the Super Bowl, the following year in the playoffs when they have a pass to Julio to beat Philadelphia, who went on to win the Super Bowl themselves, and then last year. I think this year they are not going to be as good as they could have been last year, as good as they were the year before. So I don't think people are sleeping on them. I'll tell you a couple teams I think people might be sleeping on. I mentioned the Panthers, that how good I thought they were last year before Cam got hurt, plus they had Gerald McCoy. I don't think enough people are talking about the Bears. If Mitch Trubisky can just be above average, and he was, the second pick of the draft, they've got, I believe, a very smart offensive coach, a dominant defense that is not going to go anywhere. The Bears should have more, not playoff hype, but potential Super Bowl hype if Trubisky can just be good. He doesn't have to be great, just be good. I'm high on the Seahawks, and in the AFC, how much of what happened to the Jags last year was that the defense was not quite as good as it appeared to be 2 years ago, and how much of it was Blake Bortles just sucked the energy out of the room.
Right.
And just having Nick Foles there as a competent NFL quarterback, if nothing more, can get them back to where they were 2 years ago. To me, those are teams more likely to be sleeper teams, if you will, than the Atlanta Falcons. I feel like I know what the Falcons are going to be. An excellent offense, a below-average defense. They're not going to be awful, but I don't expect them to get to double-digit wins.
Well, we talk about sleeper teams. We should also talk about sleeper quarterbacks. Quarterbacks we don't talk about a lot. We don't talk about Matt Ryan a lot. How good does he have to be for this team to be great? He had that great year, and then we just sort of stopped talking about him, assumed he was going to be the consistent on this Falcons team. What do you want to see from him this year?
Well, as Nick said, he's put this franchise where they had a window that was open. Now, is the window still open?
Yeah.
It's based on what type of changes are they going to make to their defense, what kind of changes on their special teams to be able to support them. To me, he's an underrated quarterback. They got great personnel. They have a good scheme. I talked to him 2 weeks ago at the Hall of Fame game, and he said that it's hard for him now because he's been with so many different coordinators. But Dirk Cutter, sitting down with him, he was really excited because he was going to add something to, and it's hard to add to, Cal Shanahan and my man Sark, who was there for a couple years. But he said, initial meeting said, we're not going to change that much, but what we're going to do is do a little more up-tempo, where you can be more aggressive, take advantage, make the defense show their looks, minimize their substitutions, and play a little more college, play with a little more speed, play with a little tempo. So Matty told me, this is not Cal Shanahan's offense. It's not Dirk Cutter offense. It's not a Matty Ice offense. It is a hybrid. He loves it and is looking forward to starting the season.
And, Jenna, you are spot on that Matt Ryan got the MVP in 2016, and then we act like he hasn't lived up to it since then. 2016, 2018 are the two numbers I'm going to give you. Completion percentage, 69 to 69. Passing yards, 309 to 308. Touchdown interception, 38 to 7. 35 to 7.
Wow.
His numbers were nearly identical the year he won the MVP and last season. The difference was they won close games the year he won the MVP, and their defense was better. And so Matt Ryan has not been the problem. Unfortunately, when he played that well last year and they won 7 games, it's not realistic that he's going to play much better this year. So how much better can the team be? Yeah, they need to be more fortunate with health and with close games. I just think they're in maybe the toughest division in football, and I think they're the 3rd best team in that division.
All right, Matt Ryan making his preseason debut tonight against the Jets. Take a break. Coming up, is Kyler Murray about to take the NFL by storm? That's next on First Things First. We're back here on First Things First, and we are going viral. Tom Herman in the Texas Longhorns are expected to compete with Oklahoma for the top spot in the Big 12. Herman trying a bunch of new things to push his team out of their comfort zone, like bringing in a hypnotist. Take a look at this.
Just because you're not up here on stage doesn't mean you can't follow along. I encourage you guys in the audience to follow along. Focus only on the sound of my voice and the sound of the melody that's playing in the background. Any point, you should hear me say the word sleep. You drop, you collapse. Only the person that I'm touching right now, DeMarvion. How you feeling, DeMarvion? Feeling good? Close your eyes for me. Sleep just drifting in the last Everybody on stage in just a moment. Not yet, but in just a moment. You're going to realize, hey, how's it going, buddy? Look right here. See that light up there? Sleep. Behind the wheel of that car, eyes still closed. 1, 2, 3. Be seated up straight, grab the wheel of the car. Adjust your steering wheel. Turn the radio on. All right, and we're gonna take off. We're gonna go for a little drive. And we're gonna pull over. Can you tell me why you were speeding?
I got turkey.
That's amazing.
Hypnosis is
it's
magic.
It's amazing.
It's magic.
I'm fascinated by it.
Yeah, I thought they was going to have a problem when he put the kids behind the wheel. He told them to adjust, and he had the siren going on.
Yeah.
I thought a few of them black kids going to start running. I thought for sure they was going to start running. But he came up with a great excuse. He's like, officer's like, why are you speeding? He's like, I'm going to practice. That was great.
That was great. Now, if he could get that hypnotist to just convince those kids, hypnotize them and tell them they have a different person as their head coach, that might be a really good football team this year.
But why wouldn't you do it to, like, say, I don't know, pick a vice, Nick?
Oh, you can do it to stop smoking.
Why wouldn't you do it? Oh, you don't want to stop.
Man, I don't not letting someone mess around in my brain. I think it's amazing. It's magic. I am submitting to it.
Would you let a hypnotist change anything about you?
Yeah, they can hypnotize me and take me off it as a wake-up call.
No.
Oh, that would be, could they convince you that you're actually waking up at 9:30 in the morning?
I'm like Skip. I've convinced myself.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. Good luck to the Longhorns.
That's
everyone
cool.
but their coach.
Okay, we gotcha. Time for stories to start your morning. Packers taking on the Ravens tonight. Aaron Rodgers will be rolling out this new Matt LaFleur offense as the starters plan to play a solid quarter or so. See, what should we expect from the Packers offense under LaFleur this year?
Well, they have to be multiple formations. One of the things with the last regime with McCarthy, they were very, very predictable. Not only what formations they were going to run, not only what plays they were going to run, but from a standpoint how they were going to attack, where Aaron Rodgers is going to be. I thought Nick did a great job earlier talking about the difference between Matt LaFleur. But I just believe they're going to try to be physical. The new general manager went out and got physical on the defensive side. How does the offense match that? By running the football, and Nick pointed out earlier the play-action pass, which should be a high percentage of the things they're going to do.
And you're going to see a lot more pre-snap motion. The Packers were near the bottom of the league in that last year. The Titans were near the top of the league. But the other thing that Aaron Rodgers talked about is in this offense, he thinks guys are going to be schemed open much more so than under McCarthy, where they just had to win their one-on-one matchups. He seems excited about that. If that's accurate, we should see Aaron Rodgers have a bounce-back season.
That means they're going to call plays, and the coverage is going to dictate where the ball is going to go compared to Aaron picking the best matchup and maybe trying to beat him with his arm talent compared to beating them with an offensive play.
All right, moving on to the Cowboys now. Add Amari Cooper to Dallas's long list of headaches. Their Pro Bowl receivers reportedly dealing with a plantar fascia issue that will sideline him for preseason action. See, how serious is this injury for Cooper and the Cowboys?
It's a serious injury. Outside of spraining his ACL or his MCL, to me it's one of the most severe injuries that a wide receiver, because every step he feels the pain. Plantar fasciitis, tendonitis is right under your heel. It feels like you either have a thumbtack or a nail as you run because the cleats are compressing into the grass. That pressure comes back up into the heel. So also, your feet, your growing area, poor circulation in your body. So when you have an injury to the bottom of your feet, it's hard because it's the furthest from your heart. So it takes longer for those injuries to heal, and as a wide receiver, how are you going to tell him to be off of his feet? So this might be a problem for at least a half of the season, if not the whole season.
What is every player in training camp hoping more so than anything when training camp's over? That I'm not dealing with an injury.
Absolutely.
You know you're going to get nicked during the year. To, at the very least, go into the year healthy. And unfortunately for Amari, it looks like he's not. And from what you've said about this injury, it's something that the only real way to repair it is rest. He's not about to be able to rest the next 5 months, so it could be dealing with it throughout the season.
You know what he shouldn't try? Cryotherapy with no socks on.
That's true.
Moving on to the Browns now.
Take that, Antonio Brown. You're not even in today's show. Jenna's still
I
firing
got you
bullets
in
at
there.
you. Baker Mayfield's about to catch some of these strays, too.
No, he's not. Baker is fully embracing the idea of getting Cleveland back to the playoffs, saying, quote, people want to see us lose just because the hype is so real. Nick, what's your reaction to Baker's comments?
If you can't play the nobody believes in us card, then you just go to card number 2, which is the world's against us card. It's us 53 against everyone else. Man, people don't hate the Browns. People hate the Patriots. Some people hate the Cowboys. You got to be, Jenny, you said they haven't won a playoff game since he was born.
1995.
People don't hate losers.
No.
I mean, they either don't care about them, pity them, or they root for them. But I get what Baker's doing, and I don't consider it hype. I think it's deserved expectations for Cleveland.
This is something I had to learn in retirement. Man, I'm traveling around the airports and everything. Bears fans are saying, hey, Mr. Carter, how you doing? Green Bay Packer fan, hey, Mr. Carter, how you doing? I was like, man, people just started speaking to me. Yeah, you're not playing anymore. I used to hate your guts. I used to hate you, man. You scored touchdowns against us. So only one hates the Browns. Pittsburgh Steelers fans, Baltimore Ravens fans, people down the highway there in Cincinnati. But believe it, Baker, you got a lot of fans, all right? Cris Carter being right on, waving the flag. Let's go, Baker and the Browns.
Me and Colin Coward over here on this corner.
Yeah, just
skeptical.
You, Colin, Mangini. There's
pumping the brakes. I like him. I'm just pumping
both of you guys
brakes.
are going through midlife crisis right
now.
Oh,
No,
wow.
that is actually not what is happening.
Wow.
Where do I go? In 2018, the Arizona Cardinals traded up to take Josh Rosen with the 10th overall pick. In 2019, they traded away Josh Rosen and used their #1 overall pick on Kyler Murray. Cardinals GM Steve Keim offered up an explanation yesterday saying, quote, taking this guy #1, it took a lot of grief for that. You have to make the tough decisions and avoid the outside noise. Why'd you give up on this guy? Why did you trade this guy? It's unprecedented. I took Rosen in the top 10. I just felt that Murray was a generational talent that I just couldn't pass up. CC, you believe that Kyler is that he's a generational talent?
I believe he's really talented. Only time in the NFL is going to tell. We have not seen enough. And in college football, we've seen a lot of players at a height challenge be successful. But when they come to the big leagues, and that being the NFL, the proving ground for all players, and at quarterback, until recent history, and it started with Russell Wilson, and the NFL and all the experts missing on him, because after seeing Russell Wilson, people are like, how in the heck could we not drafted him in the first or second round? He had every intangible that you would want from a quarterback. He's durable. He's a leader. He's well-spoken. He can be charismatic. He's a dual threat. He transferred. He was a graduate. He transferred from North Carolina State after getting them to a bowl game, went to Wisconsin after a couple days on campus, was named team captain, led them to a January 1st bowl game. He had everything but, he's not 6 foot. Oh, so we're not going to draft him. And then after that, Baker Mayfield. And what Baker did, he was able to overcome in the pre-draft because they saw Russell, they gave Baker a chance. After seeing him start a half a season, I'm not going to miss on Kyler. That's the way the scouts were. We only saw him in college football 1 year, but he has been dominant at every level. Might be the greatest football player ever to play, Nick, in the state of Texas. He happens to be running the same system that he's run since high school, so his ability to be able to adapt to the NFL is more likely because he's familiar with it. But for me, I need to be able to see it against the NFL to say he's a generational talent. I believe he's a special thrower of the ball. He is the answer to the question. I said, man, I wonder if Lamar Jackson could throw. And I saw Baker Mayfield, I saw Lamar Jackson, and then here comes Kyler Murray. And he is both of them at their highest level. He's able to avoid big collisions, scrambling, and even though in the pocket he's biding time to throw the ball, I believe he is a special talent. But if they don't put special players around him, if that system is not good enough, that's the only thing right now that I need to be able to see versus the NFL and the defenses they're going to throw at them, Nick.
And my concern's very simple. You ever go to Six Flags, any amusement park? You must be this tall to ride this ride.
Height requirement.
It's not how old you are. It's not how smart you are. It's not how responsible you are. You could check all those boxes. If you can't reach the little clown's finger, you can't get on the ride.
And why is that?
Because
For your safety.
For your safety. That's exactly right. And, Cris, you were at the Hall of Fame 2 weekends ago.
Yes.
And you guys, was it the Ray Nitschke luncheon?
Yeah, 170 Hall of Famers.
Okay. How many people in there were under 6 feet tall? Top year. Was Barry Sanders in there?
Barry Sanders, my man Darryl Green, and just a few more.
Couple other guys. And how many quarterbacks were in there under 6'2"? Probably one.
Bob Greasy?
Right.
I mean, and they're a little bit older, so they might have been 6'3" in their day.
they shot
him and Namath.
Right. And
but these were big dudes in their day, yes.
And so this is, and I don't want to sound like a broken record on this, and I want to be wrong, because I love the style of the college game.
Yes.
I love the athletic quarterback.
Nick is pulling for somebody to be able to do it on Sunday.
But you're so high on Baker.
To me, there's a big difference between 6'1.5" and 5'9.5".
Really?
Absolutely, yes. There absolutely is. No one has ever, Cris jokes about my height. I'm 6 feet tall. No one has ever thought, Nick, are you 6'3", 6'4"? No, there's a big difference. And the reason I get so damn angry when he jokes about my height is nobody else thinks I'm 5'8".
Well, you crave those 3 inches.
Right, and there's a big difference. And so, like, and that's just in regular life as opposed to trying to throw over linemen, see lanes, all these things. And the other part of it is, I can't prove this, but I believe this. The bigger you are, the more likely you are to be able to deal with the pounding. Forget being able to see just the hits. And I think he's going to get lit up some this year. It's a bad offensive line. The system, you're worried, has never protected quarterbacks. Doesn't have to as much in the college level because the ball's getting out so quick. So those, to me, are real concerns. If Kyler were, let's think about it the other direction. Forget if he were average height. What if Kyler did everything he did at Oklahoma and was Cam Newton's height? He would not only would he have been the number 1 pick of the draft, he would have been considered one of the greatest prospects ever.
Then would you call him a generational talent?
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, my God.
So the only
then
thing
I might pick the Cardinals to win their division.
So after seeing Russell Wilson and Drew Brees and Baker Mayfield, the only thing that's keeping you from calling him a generational talent is his height?
Both of those guys had institutional talent around them. Russell Wilson, man, Pete Carroll is one of the great coaches that we have. Snyder, the general manager, and they had just given a quarterback big money and said, you know something? Enough with that. We're going to play with this defense. We're going to have this guy lead us, Marshawn Lynch. We're going to throw them at him. Like, that helped him out. Baker Mayfield, Dorsey, allowing him, I'm going to sit a little bit, but I'm going to fire this coach and I'm going to put him in there. Yeah. And the talent they have around. They started running the ball when Baker got in there. So I'm giving Cleveland and Dorsey a lot of benefit of the doubt. But institutional talent in this league is real. Will Steve Keim, will they have enough patience? Because this is his job in this decision.
Sure.
Will they allow him to stay around long enough to be able to let this system to develop? That's part that I can't count on that.
Well, they are all in on Kyler Murray succeeding there in Arizona. We shall see. Take a break. Coming up, is the Chiefs' offense about to put the whole league on notice? That's next on First Things First. Back here at Brian Westbrook, we're talking Kansas City Chiefs coming off a season where they accomplished nearly everything but a Super Bowl win, where their offense led the league in yards and points, where their young quarterback threw for 5,000 yards and 50 touchdowns en route to MVP honors. Safe to say, Chiefs are in a good place coming into this season. But Kansas City's all-pro tight end Travis Kelce thinks this is just the beginning.
The sky's the limit for this offense. Just the guys that are here, that have been here the past couple of years, we're especially here last year. We're taking it up a level that we have in years past, and it's you can just tell from the coach's excitement to their attention to detail to how guys are reacting to their coaching. This team is going to be awesome, and we're going to have a lot of fun on the offensive side of the ball.
Brian, do you agree with Travis Kelce that this offense, what you saw last year, could actually get better?
You know, when I think about this offense, first of all, I love their big three. I love Mahomes, Hill, as well as Travis Kelce. I love Andy Reid, his ability to design plays and to get Kelce and Hill against the second and third best secondary defender. He has that ability. You kind of add to that Hardman. You add to that Williams out of the backfield. You add to that 4th overall pick, Sammy Watkins. They have some talent. We all know that. But how to make this offense better, it's not about scoring points. They scored 35 points a game last year, still didn't make it to the Super Bowl. It's not about making this team better by scoring more points. It's about being more reasonable, understanding clock management, putting their defense in better positions. Last year, the defense gave up the 2nd most yards and the 9th most points in the league. You're talking about a team that scored a bunch of points and still didn't get to the Super Bowl. They have the ability to score points. We know that. This offense will still be dynamic. Can you get the first down? When it's 3rd and 2, the defense know you're going to run the football. Can you put yourself in a situation where the defense is going to take away your 1st and 2nd option, and now you get the ball to Williams out of the backfield or get the first down running the football? That's going to be the hard part for this offense, not scoring more points.
I love the fact that how you're going to improve that defense. Not personnel. Didn't mention one person. Didn't mention scheme. They got Spagnuolo over there now as their defensive coordinator. As an offense, Westbrook and I, we've been on explosive offenses. We're going to take the responsibility ourselves. We're going to try to be a little more methodical. I mean, like, whoa, what do you mean? Yeah, we're not going to try to have as many big plays. It's not as if I'm going to have Westbrook have an explosive play and then cry down at the 1-yard line. No, but it shall be your theme in training camp. We want to be more physical. We're going to be more aggressive. We might go for it more on 4th down than any other time because if I punt, I know they can't stop us. But to me, one of the most important things is when you have Andy Reid, one of the best play callers, you have arguably the best quarterback in Patty Mahomes. You have, I would argue with anyone, Travis Kelce is the best tight end in football. And I would argue with anyone except Nick Wright that my man Tyreek Hill is the most dangerous, most explosive wide receiver. You need some other little things. And I believe, didn't get a lot of headlines, but going out and getting Carlos Hyde. Yeah. He is a physical guy. Played at Ohio State, had great years there at San Francisco. If you can bring some of that physical punch back, because that would help that defense. Because then Andy Reid knows, you know something? If I don't get it on 3rd, I can go for it on 4th because I got a variety of different ways I can do it. I just believe Carlos Hyde, adding him, could be, how can we be a little more methodical in ball control? Because that would help out that defense a bunch.
So I want to ask you a question before I give my before I give my opinion on this. You are the guy that Andy Reid called the smartest player he ever coached. So I'm going to try to tap into that for a moment.
I paid him well for him to say that.
Well, so
I mean,
on
he also
offense,
coached T.O. too.
Okay, yeah. All right, well, coached a lot of guys.
The bar's low, Brian.
It is the offense's job to score.
Yeah.
And we are now, what we are saying is almost the Chiefs, who led the league in quick strikes. They had more touchdown drives of 5 plays or less than anyone else. They had more touchdown drives of under 3 minutes than anybody else. Despite leading the league in touchdowns, though, they had the fewest long touchdown drives of any team in the league. Only 2 drives that resulted in touchdowns of 6+ minutes, which is crazy considering they scored 65, 70 touchdowns over the course of the season. How do you change that offense without taking away some of what makes it special, which is that over the top, which is Mahomes to Hill or Kelce down the seam or one of those screen passes that goes for 60 because everyone's running this way? How do you? It seems like what you guys are talking about, while I understand the logic behind it because the defense is so weak, that in practicality, it's almost impossible to do. So how do you do it without removing what makes that offense special?
Yeah, I think that's a really good question. Here's what you have to do. It comes down to play calling. It comes down to Andy Reid saying, you know, I can always put my foot on the gas. We can go faster. We can throw the ball longer, further down the field. We can make those explosive plays. But now I got to be smarter with my play calling. Maybe I need to run some more run plays. Maybe I need to do some smaller things that can get the first down, but we don't need to go 50 yards down the field. Because, again, the game isn't about just scoring points. Sometimes you got to protect your defense. Sometimes you got to win, and that means protecting your defense, not put them in bad situations, not allowing them to sit on the bench only for 2 minutes. Maybe a 6-minute drive will be pretty good for this offense. Maybe putting your offense in a situation where we're going to move slowly down the field, still score, but we're going to take 4 or 5 minutes off the clock so our defense can sit on the bench just a bit. That's what Andy Reid has to perfect, especially with a high-octane offense like he has.
Yeah, it's a mentality, but it's also conversation after conversation. When he sits down on Friday with Patty Mahomes, they go over all the plays that they run. Patty Mahomes picks the ones that he wants. Andy picks the ones, and they match them up as far as the plays that they want. But Andy's got to continue to tell him, hey, Patty, you got to help that defense out. So Patty's driving the car. So a lot of times I know I can go down the West Side Highway if I want to go home. But if I want to go a little more adventurous, I can go up to FDR. I can go that way. All right? Really? I can go that. Yeah. It's going to take me a little bit longer. And that's what Patty Mahomes wants. Instead of taking that shot, you know something? I'll throw the ball to the flat. Yep. All right? And you have to adapt what defenses are going to do. You mentioned all those numbers. Everyone in the NFL knows those numbers. I guarantee you they will get more conservative coverages. Now, people are going to try to duplicate what New England did and come after them and blitz them, which they did in the AFC Championship game. But they will have more high safeties, so Patty Mahomes can take the more conservative route. That's how you're able to do it. Coverage dictate where the ball's going to go. Patty Mahomes has it. As a more seasoned veteran, let's take that flat, let's take that intermediate, compared to me trying to take that big shot, and I believe they can accomplish more by scoring less this year.
The last time we saw the Chiefs play was obviously the conference championship game against New England. New England's up 14-0 at halftime. The Chiefs took the lead twice in the fourth quarter of that game, scored 4 second-half touchdowns. Those drives were 4 minutes, 2:20, a minute 10, and 10 seconds. They were able to, in one half, have 4 separate touchdown drives, averaging right around 2 minutes per drive. What you guys are talking about in that, and how did that game end? Their defense couldn't get off the field when the Pats drove down the field and took the lead, couldn't get off the field in overtime. That's what you're trying to have the offense help them do, which is fascinating. It's just fascinating. Sorry.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
He getting choked up. That Kansas City guy.
Excited.
Him and his dad, they've been sending season ticket money for 30 years. He used to get in that raggedy fire truck, go to the games and everything.
It wasn't
right now.
He was smoking cigarettes in the back. His dad couldn't see him and everything.
Brian, stick around.
Sorry, I get choked up thinking about that offside song.
She's such a weirdo.
Should have won the Super Bowl.
Coming up, is Baker Mayfield poised to handle all this hype? That's next on First Things First. We're back here, Brian Westbrook, and we are going viral. The Patriots will face the Titans on Saturday, so the teams are holding joint practices. Tom Brady had an interesting interaction with a coach. Take a listen to this. Okay, you know all the words to the gambler.
Oh, that's great. By the way, I think Brady could take him.
No. Stop, man.
Vrabel's nasty.
Yes, sir.
You don't want to see that guy coming off the edge. And I tell you what, offensive, defensive guys, they always go back and forth with each other. Yeah. And I'm sure they always got on Tom Brady.
Vrabel did an interview this offseason, said he'd give up he'd
cut off a very valuable part of his body for another Super Bowl.
To win as a coach. As a head coach, to win a Super Bowl, another one as a head coach. His wife was like, I'll assist you in doing that.
Wow.
Yeah. Right, that's great.
You said I've been married a long time.
You know who
He's
says
gone
that?
too far.
You know who says that? Fake tough guy, like Vrabel. Brady would whoop him, dog walk him.
Okay. Yeah. Just like you could whoop Westbrook right
No, I wouldn't say that.
Oh,
he's not a fake tough guy. He's a real tough guy.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's how you get through Nova, man.
There you go.
Whooping folks.
Back to the NFL
I got your back,
now.
Tommy.
Sure, Tom's listening. The last time the Browns won a playoff game, Baker Mayfield wasn't even born yet. Nick was in what grade?
3rd.
CC was doing big things, winning
setting
big
NFL
awards.
records.
Westbrook, where were you in 95? You were in high school.
Yeah.
Jenna, where were you?
In college.
Yeah.
Okay.
Exactly.
25 years later, with his team all but daring the league to beat them.
Was after she got dumped by Mike
DiBianco?
Oh, God, stop saying his full name.
Yeah.
Well, he
okay, Baker's fully embraced the idea of getting Cleveland back to the promised land.
He is. He said, quote, people want to see us lose just because the hype is so real.
Yep, that's what Mike DiBianco said. He said,
the hype was real,
all
CC.
hype, bro.
All my hype was real,
all
Brian.
hype?
Oh, my God, please.
Brian,
I beg of you.
What do you think about what Baker had to say? Is he right? Teams hate him, so they want to see him lose? Not him, but the Browns this year?
I think Baker's a little bit misguided. I don't think anybody hates the Browns. I think that the NFL and their fans, they love good stories. I think of guys like Brett Favre jumping into his offensive lineman's arms, gunslinger mentality, kind of say and do anything Marshawn Lynch does. Whenever he talked, people were putting cameras in his face. They loved the good story. He was nasty, violent type of runner. I think Baker Mayfield and the Browns are similar. They have a team that hasn't had a winning record since 2007. They're a team that has not done any good at all in a very long time. But now they have this gunslinger, a quarterback that plays a game just like a lot of people out there in the backyard. I want to drink a beer in the middle of a baseball or football game. Why not? Go do it, Baker. That's something that people want to see. It's a good story. He's overcome a bunch of adversity. Now you add Odell Beckham Jr. to Jarvis Landry to Kareem Hunt when he comes back. They have a bunch of talent on this football team. Nobody hates them. I think America kind of wants to watch them do good. Everybody wants to see them win football games, especially with all this talent.
I think that was a 2011 Philadelphia team. Remember they had the hype before?
That's a dream team.
Michael Vick, Vince Young, all that. But those were more veteran players compared to the situation that they have. I believe they have some real substance because for me, I don't care what my quarterback does. I don't care what his personality is. If he can throw the football, my guy doesn't have to be the guy that does all the interviews. I love Russell Wilson. I love what he's doing. Tom Brady, the way they answer the questions, all that's great. I don't care if a guy's got a little bit of flavor, but you have to realize if you're a quarterback and you're a little bit different, that being in speech, that being in color, that being in height, you are already going to have a certain amount of people who don't believe or don't like it. Certain people, they want a CEO, they want him buttoned up, they want him a certain way.
Absolutely.
To me,
right.
I don't care. And I played the position that becomes important to doing your job is how good that guy is. And if he can spin the ball, and if he can talk to these other crazy guys we have in the locker room, he's going to be all right. The most successful season Jeff George had, it wasn't when he was with the Atlanta Falcons. It wasn't with his drafted team with the Colts. It was in Minnesota, man, where we told him the first day, Jeff, you know what you don't have to be? He was like, what? A leader. All you have to do is call the play in the huddle. Don't say anything else. He was like, really? That's the first time since high school and the people just, I don't have to be a leader, because he wasn't into talking. He didn't have the type of verbiage and everything. He was a shy kind of guy. And it worked in Minnesota. I don't care if my quarterback is not the most buttoned up CEO. As long as he can play, I'm a fan of Baker Mayfield, and I believe he's going to win a lot of people over to his side throughout his career.
Of course, this Browns story is going to be a great story if they win. And, of course, it's okay to be brash and outspoken and wide-eyed and crack that beer, whatever the word is you guys use with the
shotgun to the beer.
All of it, if you're good and you produce on the field. My whole thing is prove it. Like, let me see something off a piece of paper.
Jenna, you're asking them to time travel. And that's not fair. No, you are. And this is something, you're not the only one. But this is this whole of, well, do something first. The season has not started. They have not had the opportunity. They are not a team that it's year after year, same thing. And they haven't had an opportunity to prove it yet. So all I would say is, okay, save that criticism for if they don't. Like, and I'm not telling you specifically, but in general, people are asking them to finish the race before the race has begun, and that's not fair.
In professional sports, it's always about moving the finish line.
The goal, yeah.
Once you get drafted, people are like, I believe he's going to be this. Then when it's like, he's going to be a role player. Westbrook, he's only going to be a third down back. Well, once you become a starter, people move it. Well, he'll never be a Pro Bowler. That's what they always do. The kids we haven't seen, I need to see more. Once we see more, it's like, prove it to me. I want you to do something else. Andrew Luck, we want him to stay healthy. Aaron Rodgers, we want him to go back the way he was. Tom Brady, at 42, can he do it? I mean, every quarterback, we changed the finish line for him. So we're always adjusting. Young quarterbacks, prove it to me during the regular season. Patty Mahomes,
super Mangini on Patrick Mahomes last year.
Oh, no, you got to
Let me see him do this. He did it all crap. Let me see him do this. What about in the playoffs? Oh, man, I didn't go to the Super Bowl.
And that's part of covering this league.
Right.
Baker Mayfield's going to be like that. Even after Baker wins a playoff game, which they haven't won one since when?
25 years.
People are going to move the finish line and be like, get us to a Super Bowl.
That's right. I love the swagger. I love the new school. Listen, I'm going to do it my own way. I love that. I think this Browns team, as a team, has two things to worry about: success and failure. Can you have success, meaning I'm going to win 2-3 games in a row? How does this team handle that? Young coach Freddie Kitchens, they have a bunch of talented guys, a lot of guys that have a lot of character in that locker room. How do you handle that? Can Baker Mayfield control that locker room? The other part is failure. What happens if you lose 2-3 games in a row? Who do you turn to then? Who are you going to say?
Have a bad month.
Yeah, have a bad month. Good teams are able to rebound after that. Teams that aren't well led, teams that don't have that type of background and character, they fall. And they now you turn 2-3 losses into 5 or 6 losses, then it gets ugly. This team has to be able to handle success and failure. We'll see that this season.
I want to ask you one question that we've talked about a lot on this show, but never with you on it. Why do you think in sports either nobody believes in us or it's close first cousin, the whole world hates us, are such powerful rallying cries within locker rooms? Because you see it across sports, across generations, teams consistently go to one of those two things. Why do you think that is?
Well, I'll tell you this. I played with that my entire career. Chip on your shoulder. No one thinks you're good enough. I remember the Senior Bowl, and I won't even say this coach's name. We're at Senior Bowl.
Say his name.
It's an all-star game.
Your career's on. Say his name. Say his
Stump
name.
Mitchell. This is what he said to me.
Maybe you could say that.
This is an all-star game, right? And so everybody's supposed to play. You're trying to show the scouts. We go through the entire week, and he comes to me right before the game. Listen, you're only going to play on third downs and punt return. I'm like, well, I need to be able to show these guys that I can play first and second down. That's because nobody wants to see you do that. So now I carry that chip on my shoulder throughout my entire career. I saw Stump Mitchell on the sideline for the Redskins and for the Seattle Seahawks. I didn't want to talk to him because the chip on my shoulder was bigger than me having a conversation with that man. I think teams love the underdog thing. The Philadelphia Eagles did it a couple years ago. The Browns are trying to do it now. That's something that you can win with. That's an attitude that you approach every single day with. I did it my entire career.
Nick, it's one of the characteristics God gives most athletes. They have it regardless of how talented, how successful they've been. They all have that little edge to them.
Michael Jordan would always find
And the coaches always try to tap into that to see, man, is this guy really an athlete? And yes, he does have it.
And it's not all sports. Everyone's got a Stump Mitchell in their life. Someone that didn't believe in them. Someone where you're spending every day of your life.
Absolutely. Go ahead. Go ahead, Jim.
Didn't believe in you. His name is Jeff Gray.
You said you'd never get out of Binghamton?
Hey.
Is that what he said? Binghamton's your ceiling? He said, look at me now, Jeff.
Oh, yeah. Biggie made a song about that, Jenna. Yeah.
Right?
Back there, all the
Couldn't make it in
teachers
sports.
thought I wasn't going to be nothing.
Am I that transparent?
Yeah. I got you.
Of course. That's why you told the story. Everyone's got one. Please, someone ask me who mine is. Please, someone ask me who mine is.
Stop it. Thank you for listening to the First Things First podcast. Remember, leave us a review and tell us what you think. Subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts and catch us on FS1 Monday through Friday, 6:30 a.m. Eastern. For Cris Carter and Nick Wright, I'm Jenna Wolfe. So long, everybody.